Good day once again. Welcome again to another series of lectures on civil procedure. So our topic for today is intervention under Rule 19. Okay, so intervention is a remedy for parties who are not parties to the action to enter the proceedings, to enter the case. Okay? So intervention always requires leave or of court. So it always requires permission from the court. Why? Because the court must determine whether or not the person who is seeking to intervene in the proceedings indeed has the required interest, okay, that will clothe him with a personality to be a party in the case, either as plaintiff or as defendant. And it will also give the court the opportunity to assess whether or not the interest of the would-be intervenor would be best protected in the same action, or it can best be protected in another action. So if it could be best protected in the present case, then the court will grant the intervention. If not, if the court decides or resolves that interest of the would-be intervenor could be best protected in another proceeding and that it would only cause delay in the present proceedings, then the intervention will be denied. Who may intervene in an action? Okay, a person who has legal interest in the matter of the litigation or in the success of either of the parties or an interest against both, or is so situated as to be adversely affected by a distribution or other disposition of property in the custody of the court, may with leave of court be allowed to intervene in the action. So it is interest either in the subject matter or in the success of either or both parties, or in the distribution of the property that is the subject of the action. That is the interest that is required for a person who wants to intervene in the case. So the court will consider whether or not the intervention will unduly delay or prejudice the adjudication of the rights of the original parties, and whether or not the intervener's rights may be fully protected in a separate proceeding. That is the reason why leave of court is always required when it comes to intervention. To give the court the opportunity to assess whether or not it will only cause delay in the present proceedings and whether or not the rights of the would-be intervener can be best protected in a separate proceeding. Now, what is the time to intervene? When is the appropriate time for a person to intervene in a case? The motion to intervene may be filed at any time before rendition of judgment by the trial court. So it must be before judgment, at any time before judgment. Once judgment has already been rendered and there is no proceedings anymore in the trial court, okay, the intervention would be denied. Now, how do you intervene? Will you intervene as a plaintiff or will you intervene as a defendant? Section 3 of Rule 19 tells us that the intervener shall file a complaint in intervention if he asserts a claim against either or all of the original parties, or an answer in intervention if he unites with the defending party in resisting a claim. Okay, so you can either file a complaint in intervention if you have a claim against either or all the original parties, or an answer in intervention if you are taking the side of the defendant in resisting a claim. Okay. Now, once a complaint in intervention is admitted by the court, okay, the original parties will be given the right to submit an answer to a complaint in intervention within 15 calendar days from receipt of the notice admitting the same. So, the court will resolve the complaint in intervention whether or not to allow the same. The court decides to allow the intervention. The original parties will be given the opportunity to file an answer to the complaint in intervention within 15 calendar days from receipt of the order admitting the same. Okay. Intervention is a remedy by which a third party, not originally impleaded, becomes a litigant. Okay, intervention is not a right but is left to the court's sound discretion. That is the reason why leave of court is always required for intervention. Okay, the requirements for a person to be allowed to intervene are the following. The applicant has a legal interest in the matter in litigation. The applicant has a legal interest in the success of either party, or the applicant has a legal interest against both parties, and the applicant would be adversely affected by a distribution or other disposition of property in the custody of the court. Okay. Again, the period to intervene is at any time before judgment. Intervention is not an independent action, but is only ancillary to an existing litigation. The right of the intervener should only be in aid of the right of the original party. Okay, first case is Ongko versus Dalisay. Okay, this is a 2012 case. Dalisay applied for registration of a parcel of land. Okay, no oppositor aside from the Republic of the Philippines. Okay, while the case was pending appeal, Petitioner Ongko filed a motion for leave to intervene with an attached answer to intervention. Remember the stage, the case was pending appeal. So impliedly, it means that there is already a judgment from the trial. Okay, so in this case, the court discussed what is meant by interest to be able to be allowed to intervene. Such interest must be of a direct and immediate character so that the intervener will either gain or lose by the direct legal operation of the judgment. The interest must be actual and material, a concern which is more than mere curiosity or academic or sentimental desire. It must not be indirect and contingent, indirect and remote, conjectural, consequential, or collateral. Permission to intervene is subject to the discretion of the court, the exercise of which is limited by considering whether or not the intervention will unduly delay or prejudice the adjudication of the rights of the original parties, and whether or not the intervener's rights may be fully protected in a separate proceeding. So in the case of Ongko, petitioner has not shown any legal interest of such nature that she could gain or lose by the direct legal operation of the judgment. On the contrary, his interest is indirect and contingent because she has not yet been granted a free patent over the land, as she in fact admits being only in the process of applying for one. Her interest is at best inchoate. And also, the motion to intervene was filed after the judgment has been rendered by the trial court. Okay. Uh, and because of this, the motion for intervention must be denied. Before judgment is rendered, the court for good cause shown may still allow the introduction of additional evidence, and that is still within the liberal interpretation of the period for trial. Also, since no judgment has yet been rendered, the matter subject of the intervention may still be readily resolved and integrated in the judgment. So after the lapse of this period, it will not be warranted anymore. This is because intervention is not an independent action but is ancillary and supplemental to an exceeding litigation, to an existing litigation. That is the reason why the intervention must be filed before the trial court renders its judgment, because intervention will require the presentation of evidence. And when the judgment is already rendered and the case is already on appeal in the appellate court, there is no more reception of evidence because the appellate court is not a trial court. So the reason for the intervention will be missing or will be absent. Okay? Because intervention requires the presentation of evidence to support the reason why you filed for intervention. And when a judgment is already rendered, you can no longer file, or you will no longer be allowed to intervene in an action. Manalo versus Court of Appeals. So in this case, petitioner seeks intervention by virtue of a lease agreement executed by certain Vargas in an alleged buyer of the land. He posits that as a lessee and assignee in possession of the real property, he automatically acquires interest over the subject matter of the litigation. This interest is coupled with the fact that he introduced improvements. So enforcing the writ, he adds, without hearing his side would be an injustice to him. So there is already a writ of execution. So when you have a writ of execution, there is already a judgment. Again, the Supreme Court stated intervention is not a matter of right, but may be permitted only when the statutory conditions for the right to intervene is shown. Thus, the allowance or disallowance is addressed to the sound discretion of the court. We rule that petitions to intervene is too little, too late. So the lower court had already granted respondents' petition for the writ. Petitioner's motion was clearly out of time, having been filed only at the execution stage. After the consolidation of title in the buyer's name for failure the mortgagor to redeem, the writ of possession becomes a matter of right. So you must always remember that if you want to intervene in a case, you file it during the trial. Once a judgment has already been rendered, the case is already in the execution stage. Any motion for intervention will no longer be allowed. Majestic Finance versus Tito. Respondent Tito filed with the CFI against Majestic a petition to declare the proceedings null and void. Prior to the institution of the annulment case, Tito had already transmitted his interest over the subject property to Nazal, prompting the latter to join him in the proceedings as intervenors, which was granted. The important thing to remember in the case of Majestic Finance is that Dismissal of the original case necessarily includes the petition in intervention. So when the original case is dismissed, it necessarily carries with it the petition for intervention. So the intervention cannot on its own stand without the original complaint. Case law states that intervention is never an independent action but is merely ancillary and supplemental to the existing litigation. The right of an intervener should only be in aid of the right of the original party. Thus, as a general rule, where the right of the latter has ceased to exist, there is nothing to aid or fight for, and consequently, the right of intervention ceases. In this case, where a transfer of interest was affected before the commencement of the suit, the transferee must necessarily be the plaintiff or defendant, as the case may be, as it is he who stands to be benefited or injured by the judgment in the suit. Whether one treats Nazal as mere intervenors or properly speaking as plaintiffs in the annulment case, the court finds no reason as to why the same should not be dismissed. Spouses Nasal are precluded from prosecuting their claim against Majestic. Again, we go to pleadings in intervention. Okay, it may either be a complaint in intervention when the intervener asserts a claim against either or all of the original parties. Answer in intervention when the intervener unites with the defendant in resisting the claim of the plaintiff. Okay, we also have an answer to the complaint in intervention, which is filed by the original parties. What are the factors to be considered in deciding or in resolving the intervention? Okay, the first factor is whether or not intervention will unduly delay or prejudice the adjudication of rights of the original parties. So if the intervention will only result in delay or it will prejudice either or all of the original parties, then the intervention would be denied. And whether or not the intervener's rights may be fully protected in a separate proceeding. Third is it is filed before rendition of judgment. Fourth, the intervention will not be allowed if it would enlarge the issues in the action and expand the scope of remedies. And fifth, only a person with interest in the action or proceeding may be allowed to intervene. This either interest in the subject matter, interest in the success of either or all of the parties, and interest in the property to be distributed in the case. Okay, we have the case of Labrador versus Court of Appeals. So this is a case filed by the widow of Magsaysay as a special administrator of the estate of the late Senator Magsaysay. Now, they filed a motion for intervention on the ground that their brother conveyed the late senator conveyed to them one half of his shareholdings in Subic. Now, the court denied the motion for intervention and ruled that petitioners have no legal interest in the matter in litigation, and their being alleged assignees cannot legally entitle them to intervene because Subic has a personality which is separate and distinct from its stockholders. Now, petitioner, on the other hand, anchors their right to intervene on the purported assignment made by the late senator of a certain portion of his shareholdings as evidenced by a deed of sale. So, the shareholdings of the late senator to transferring to them their shareholdings in the corporation named Subic. Okay, so what is the interest which will clothe the would-be intervener with the personality to intervene in proceedings. So the court said the interest which entitles a person to intervene in a suit between other parties must be in the matter in litigation and of such direct and immediate character that the intervener will either gain or lose by the direct legal operation and effect of the judgment. Otherwise, if persons not parties to the action could be allowed to intervene, proceedings will become unnecessarily complicated, expensive, and interminable. And this is not the policy of the law. So here, the interest, if it exists, is indirect, contingent, remote, conjectural, consequential, and collateral. At the very least, their interest is purely inchoate or in sheer expectancy of a right in the management of the corporation and to share in the profits and in the properties and assets on dissolution after payment of debts and obligations because they are mere stockholders. And even assuming that there was a valid transfer, petitioners are barred from intervening inasmuch as their right can be ventilated and amply protected in another proceeding. We have the case of Big Country Ranch versus Court of Appeals. A case was filed by Palarca for a plebe to recover 2 barges. Private respondent Golden Flame filed an urgent motion for intervention claiming ownership over the 2 barges, okay, which it acquired from the petitioner Big Country in a public auction sale. Now, the petitioner Big Country as the previous owner also filed a motion seeking also to intervene because it is the owner of the 2 barges in question. So the trial court denied the petitioner's motion for leave to intervene. Okay, the court said the allowance or disallowance of a motion for intervention is addressed to the sound discretion of the permissive tenor of the provision on intervention shows that the intention of the rule is to give the court ample discretion in permitting or disallowing the same. The discretion of the court once exercised cannot be reviewed by certiorari nor controlled by mandamus except in instances when there has been grave abuse. In this case, there is no showing of grave abuse of discretion on the part of the trial court. It denied petitioner's motion for intervention by reason of its findings that the intervention would only unduly delay the case and prejudice the adjudication of rights of the original parties. Petitioner has no legal interest in the matter in litigation and that his rights can be ventilated and protected in a separate action. Remember that the petitioner here, Big Country, has already sold ownership of the barges to Golden Flame. So it has no more rights to be amply protected in the action. These certificates of sale constituted the very reason why it was allowed to intervene in the main case. Okay. Petitioners claim that the public sale was attended by some irregularities and therefore invalid could be better threshed out in an independent proceeding. So he can file an action to annul the sale, but not in this case because this is a replevin suit. In a replevin, ownership is not an issue. Okay? Only the possession of the personal property of the barges. New and unrelated issues on conflicting claims of ownership, authenticity of documents of title, regularity in the mode of acquisition could be raised, could and inevitably cause delay in the adjudication of the rights claimed by the original parties. Intervention is not intended to change the nature and character of the action or to stop or delay the operation of the machinery of trial. The remedy of intervention is not proper when it will have the effect of retarding the principal suit or delaying the trial of the action. It will not be allowed when it would enlarge the issues in the action and expand the scope of remedies, because the issue in Replevin is merely limited to possession, while the claim of the petitioner is ownership. The proper course is for the would-be intervener to litigate his claim in a separate suit. Okay? We now go to the case of Ano Nuevo versus Halandoni. So in this case, Rodolfo died intestate without issue. Bernardino, the brother of Rodolfo, filed a petition for issuance of letters of administration. Their siblings contend that their grandmother, Isabel, was at the time of Rodolfo's death the legal spouse of Rodolfo, for which reason Isabel is entitled to a share in the estate of Rodolfo. Okay. Ano Nuevo opposed the intervention on the ground that the petitioners, Halandoni, I mean, petitioners and their siblings have failed to establish the status of Isabel as heir of Rodolfo, as legal spouse of Rodolfo. Now, the intestate court issued an order allowing the petitioners and their siblings to take part in the settlement proceedings, which was reversed by the Court of Appeals. Now, the issue is whether there was sufficient evidence to establish Isabel's status as the legal spouse of Rodolfo. Okay. A court's power to allow or deny intervention is circumscribed by judicial procedure, that only a person with interest in an action may be allowed to intervene. A court has no authority to allow a person who has no interest in the action to intervene. Consequently, when a court commits a mistake and allows an uninterested person to intervene in a case, the mistake is not simply an error of judgment but one of jurisdiction. The allowance is made in excess of the court's jurisdiction and can only be the product of an exercise of discretion gravely abused. That kind of error may be reviewed by certiorari. The Court of Appeals was acting well within the limits of review under a writ of certiorari when it examined the evidence proving Isabel's right to inherit from Rodolfo. The sufficiency or insufficiency of such evidence determines whether the petitioners and their siblings have successfully established Isabel's interest in Rodolfo's estate. Ultimately, the reassessment of the evidence presented by the petitioners and their siblings will tell if the assailed orders of the intestate court were issued in excess of jurisdiction or with grave abuse of discretion. So that's all for intervention. Thank you for listening.